Okay, so just like the video we made a little bit earlier talking about Lafreniere and Byfield switching up between the 1 and 2 selections, this video here, which is going to be on Max Domi, is only really being made as a courtesy. Because it's something that Montreal fans are talking about, because it's something that people have asked me to talk about. Let's get into the Max Domi thing, talk about the situation, and kind of dissect where exactly people are believing the situation will go from here. So, Max Domi is one of the Montreal Canadiens players who is on RFA. He needs a contract for next season, and there's all the drama in the world that's going on as to whether or not he is going to sign with Montreal, whether or not he is going to get traded, whether or not he's going to get an offer sheet, etc. But because of the way he has been deployed in the lineup over the past few seasons, the way his decline in production has settled in, and the way that other centers on the team have really showcased themselves off as valuable, there's a very real argument to be made that Max Domi is most likely not going to be a part of the Canadiens next season. And a lot of people can understand why. Because we know what Domi is supposed to bring, we know what he's capable of bringing, and we saw that a year ago. But this previous season's worth of play, also combined with the play-in series against the Penguins and the playoff series against the Flyers, didn't really showcase the best of Domi, and as a result, now because Danault is here, because Suzuki is here, because Kotkaniemi is here, there's debate as to whether or not that center role should be given to somebody else other than a Max Domi in the form of a trade. This scenario has been pushed even further by the fact that he is indeed an RFA, and he does need a new contract. Further to that point, because we know how crazy these RFA contract negotiations can get, Max Domi recently actually fired his agent and hired in his former agent's place the guy who represents Mitch Marner. It is Darren Ferris. Now, we know the Marner contract, the RFA to full-on contract situation, that was probably the ugliest RFA negotiation we have seen in years, pretty much. We haven't seen a crazy contract negotiation like Mitch Marner's, and we've seen how that has been playing out as the contract lives out its lifespan, I guess. So, pretty much, there's a lot of concern, even more now compared to before, as to whether or not the Canadiens would, should, or even could sign Max Domi to a price that many Habs fans would feel would be fair. Now, sticking on the side of fairness, the Habs do have a lot of cap space, even when acquiring that Jake Allen that they did just a few days ago. But that's besides the point. We're here talking about a Max Domi trade, whether or not that's capable of happening, and I think just the way people are talking about this warrants a video idea on this subject. So, let's go over onto what Pierre McGuire said on TSN 690 2 days ago. He said, quoted here by NHL Watcher, "It's pretty apparent that Max Domi won't be back." That's one insider on TSN Radio in Montreal noting that he believes he's not going to come back. Furthermore, we had an article over here on Sports Illustrated on the Hockey News written and published over here by Matt Larkin. Check this out over here. It is 5 teams that should make offers for Max Domi. Now, this article is a very good read. I recommend any Habs fan to go out there and actually check it out, read what Larkin has to say about Domi. He goes over the situation very well, and he highlights just exactly why there even is this potential fallout between Domi and the Habs. But the meat and potatoes of this article are the 5 teams that he believes should go after Domi. And the main philosophy behind these teams going after Domi is trying to capitalize on their cap space, their positional need as a team, and the direction of the club going forward. The 5 teams that he lists are the Buffalo Sabres, the Minnesota Wild, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Winnipeg Jets, and the San Jose Sharks. He also mentions the Devils, the Panthers, and the Bruins as other potential suitors, but he notes how the Bruins and the Canadiens haven't made a trade in 19 years, so it's unrealistic that Domi ends up becoming the guy going over to Boston that breaks that. But with this in mind, let's go over each of these 5 teams that Larkin does go over and just talk about the idea of a Max Domi trade and what that could mean for each individual club. For Buffalo, Larkin writes that the Buffalo Sabres do need a number 2 guy behind Jack Eichel. And if he wanted to, let's just say, extend the process through time a little bit, you could swap a Casey Middlestad for a Max Domi. Now, to me personally, if I was a Montreal Canadiens fan, which I am. I think people kind of know that. I would honestly be really open to the idea of a Casey Mittelstadt for Max Domi, on the clause that a Casey Mittelstadt is able to work towards the future in a beneficial way. We've spoken about Casey Mittelstadt here on the YouTube channel before, talking about whatever happened to him, because he was one of the top NHL prospects back in like 2018. He was supposed to be better than Elias Pettersson, and then once he made the NHL, he was amazing in the short stint he played at the end of that season, and then he wasn't great, and then he was sent to the AHL. And sure, while he still does pose a lot of value because he is just a 21-year-old guy, Max Domi is 4 years ahead of him in terms of development and in terms of age. So from the Buffalo point of view, if you wanted to take this guy from Montreal who wasn't all too great in his second year, and who wasn't too great in the playoffs, and you want to expand on the skill set that he does have, you play him in a second-line role, which is not what he was given in Montreal towards the end. You give Dylan Cousins that third-line center role, and all of a sudden, your center core has been revitalized. For the Montreal point of view, though, you're cashing in on the potential of Domi, who may not even be on your team next year and who may not even sign a contract with you, and getting a Casey Mittelstadt back. That's just one offer that Matt Larkin proposes, but bear with me here. I know it's kind of weird thinking about Casey Mittelstadt going to the Canadiens because they're already so small, they could afford to get even smaller, can't they? But let's go over onto the rest of the teams over here. The next team labeled that should make a Max Domi trade offer is the Minnesota Wild, and this is actually a pretty interesting fit in my opinion. Not only because first off you're getting Alex Galchenyuk and Domi playing on the same team, what you're getting in Max Domi is a transitional player that'll take you from the old veterans like Ryan Suter and Mikko Koivu, etc., into the younger generation of guys with Kaprizov, with Domi, with other guys like Hovanov and Matt Boldy, all these other really good prospects that the Wild do possess. Domi provides a second-line spot to be filled on center that may indeed replace that of a Mikko Koivu, and allows younger guys to grow, develop, and prosper alongside of a Max Domi who is only 25 years old right now. Larkin proposes the idea of the return having something to do with Jordan Greenway, but that's really up for debate. As for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are also mentioned in this article, Larkin writes how there is an available spot on the second-line center behind Pierre-Luc Dubois. In fact, there's another RFA in Columbus who many people have been speculating as to whether or not the Canadiens should go after him in Josh Anderson, a 26-year-old big, powerful right winger who can score points. This kind of player seems like the complete antithesis to the entire Montreal Canadiens forward core because he's big instead of being a small sub-5'11" guy. Again, it's just an idea, but who knows if there can be some switcheroos of the RFAs going along here, because when you have RFAs, sure, there's still value attached to the players, but it's a significantly lower amount of value because, hey, they don't have any contracts. You still have to negotiate that if you acquire this player. For the Winnipeg Jets, we don't even need to highlight what Larkin writes about in the article because we've spoken about Domi and the Jets quite a lot over the past few months. We made a video specifically on Max Domi and whether or not the Jets are a fit a few months ago. We also spoke about the Winnipeg Jets and the whole Patrik Laine thing because that apparently is something that has brought itself into the media. Now, am I insinuating that Domi for Laine 1-for-1 is fair? No, absolutely not. But again, there are indeed options here. We noted in yesterday's video about the Jets that they do need a second-line center, so if Max Domi is that guy who they want to fill in that role with, then be my guest. Let's see what you can offer, Kevin Cheveldayoff. And the final team in this article is indeed the San Jose Sharks, whom were not supposed to be as bad as they were this past season, but they actually were. And even though they were bad, their first-round pick isn't with them, it's with Ottawa. A whole bunch of stuff just went wrong for the Sharks this season, and they may want to remain competitive as soon as next year. But who knows if that's even possible? A lot of their bigger guys left in free agency, and they're an aging team. So, who knows if making the necessary moves to get younger by trading a guy like what Larkin proposes as a Joe Thornton for a Max Domi, for example. It's really up for debate, but of course these are just 5 teams pulled out of thin air that Larkin is insinuating should make trade offers for Domi, but of course there are 30 other NHL teams that could make trade offers. But I think ultimately all these rumors, all these articles coming out, all of these little tidbits saying that Domi is probably not going to stay as a Hab, it's all forming this bigger narrative that says the Montreal Canadiens are probably going to trade Domi. The only question is to who and for what. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what happens then, because so far, as this video is being recorded on the night of September 4th, or excuse me, it's the morning of September 4th, 12:51 a.m., there's no contract extension, no nothing. It's just been complete silence. So we definitely will follow this Domi story as it goes along, but for now, talk to me in the comments what you think about the idea of a Max Domi trade. Who should he get traded to, and for what? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. That is Roll9, and bye.